Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and I am so excited to be celebrating 10 years of meaningful conversations with you. As we step into our new primetime hour, it's such an honor to share this exciting new chapter with you. So whether you're starting your day out, headed to work, or listening from wherever you are, this hour is designed to bring you thoughtful dialogue, fresh insight, and inspiring stories so you can make every moment count. So thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive in. Our special guest is Richard Ramos, who's here to share with us his books, Parents on a Mission: How Parents Can Win the Competition for the Hearts, Minds, and Loyalty of Their Children, and The Art of Stepparenting: How to Blend Families Without Tearing Them Apart, and his last book with us, From the Margins to the Mainstream: Preparing Latino Youth for Leadership in the 21st Century. So what if the most important leadership role you'll ever have is being a parent? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. Richard R. Ramos is a national and international parenting expert, speaker, author, and leadership coach with over 30 years of experience working with high-risk youth, parents, and community leaders. As the founder of Parents on a Mission, Richard has trained thousands of parents and mentors across the U.S. and internationally, equipping them with the tools to restore broken relationships, develop strong family cultures, and lead with purpose. So welcome to the show, Richard Ramos.
Well, thank you for having me, Marianne. I really appreciate it.
My goodness, what a great honor it is to have you here, Richard. And I'm so excited that we get to talk not just about your books, but your life as well. My goodness, for decades, you've been working with high-risk youth and families. What first moved you to focus your life's work on parents and the family?
Well, I think it's probably three things. Number one, I grew up in Northeast Los Angeles, raised by a single mother, unfortunately experiencing domestic violence and things like that. And of course, Northeast Los Angeles, along with other great things about it, there are also a lot of gangs there, violence and drugs. And so being surrounded by that, it's always kind of stuck with me, even though I went on to play college baseball and football. But I just kind of I've always wanted to remember where I came from and seeing a lot of the things that go on in neighborhoods like that. Secondly, I've worked in two prisons in my career, the California Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo, and also the prison in Lompoc. It's a federal prison, and also juvenile hall here in Santa Barbara. So again, seeing lives destroyed, seeing a lot of talent now locked up and things like that to kind of had an effect on me that, wow, look at these people. Some of them could be so successful, but because of decisions they made in their life. And the third thing I would say, for about 4 years, I was the at-risk school counselor. I had 50 of the worst kids in the school on my caseload. And so once again, all of those things just kind of compelled me to try to make an effort and improve the relationship between parents and their children.
Well, I think that's something that we can really have a broader discussion on, because I think the same thing. You see people who have such great potential, and because of their environment, a lot of times they're stuck in a place that they don't realize they can get out of.
Yeah, that's right. And unfortunately, sometimes society can write them off, give up. They get messages like that if they're having trouble in school or end up in jail or a juvenile hall. Sometimes people are not real kind, and they'll say things like, "You know what? You're done. You'll never amount to anything," and things like that. And unfortunately, people tend to believe those things unless somebody else can come along and say, "No, you know what? You have potential," and encourage them to get back on the right track. And that's what I was trying to do way back then, and I'm still trying to do it today.
Well, I'm sure that you've seen an impact from having this encouraging atmosphere that you're bringing to these students that maybe never get that. What has that been like?
Marianne, it's so rewarding. And one of the fortunate things for me, I've been in Santa Barbara a long time. As I mentioned, I grew up in Los Angeles, but I've been here and raised all my kids here. And one of the benefits of being in the same community for a long time, I've been able to see the fruit of the labor that I put in. A lot of these kids, they were 14, 15, 13 years old when I was dealing with them. Now, that was in the early 90s. Now they're in their 30s and 40s and they have their own kids. And to see the success that they've been able to attain, and then the compliments they give me when I see them here and there. And that's just been so, it's humbling, but at the same time, it's very rewarding to see that I was able to have a little bit of a part of them turning their lives around and getting back on track.
Have you seen them be able to carry the just that success on with their own families?
Yeah, well, that's the whole goal, and that's what Parents on a Mission is about. Trying to break those generational cycles. And for these kids, so one of the reasons I started Parents on a Mission was because I realized I was fighting a uphill battle as a youth counselor when I went to their home and saw that there was so much dysfunction, miscommunication, no respect. And at that time, I said to myself, well, if I really want to help my students, I need to help mom and dad and try to break those generational cycles. And as you asked, now that they are adults and they have kids, they are doing so well. I can't say 100% of them, but many of them are doing so well, and they're raising their kids in the way that we suggest through Parents on a Mission.
Wow, that must make you feel so good.
It does. It really does. It's humbling, but and my own kids. Not all of them are married, but some of them are and have children, and it's just very rewarding. And none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes, and we all need encouragement. But it is very rewarding to see some of the fruit of my labor.
So I understand you often say that parents are competing for the hearts, minds, and loyalty of their children. What does that mean in today's digital and, of course, cultural environment?
Well, everybody says it takes a village to raise a child, and I say that it does not take a village to raise a child. It just takes good parenting. Because what I see, the competition that parents are under today, and they're being undermined today in so many different ways. And I know that phrase, it takes a village, is meant well, but it was meant for a different time and culture, in my opinion. Today in America, unfortunately, we're not sure who we can trust, from the White House to the church house, the schoolhouse, and unfortunately, sometimes in our own home. So I encourage parents. Take control. Don't take for of your children. Don't take their heart and their mind and their loyalty for granted. And then we have the social media influencers that are having such a huge impact. And the studies that are out there show the psychological impact it's having, artificial intelligence, social media influencers. So that's another big competitor. And then the public schools. Unfortunately, many of them are keeping secrets from the parents. We just had a law signed into, or a policy signed into law by the governor, where schools do not have to divulge when their children are making what I would call life-changing decisions. And if parents want to talk about that, they can't tell them about it. So those are the kinds of things in the environment we're living in today that are competing and undermining the influence and values of the parents. And I'm trying to help parents understand that, and they need to. I say to them, if you don't understand the competition you're in on a daily basis, you need to get in the game. You're not even in the game if you don't understand it. And you need to wake up and understand. Too many children are being pulled away, enticed away, influenced away from the parents' family values.
Oh my goodness, there's so much there that parents have to be aware of. What are some ways that they can be more in tune with making sure that their children are pointed in the correct direction, especially with the digital and cultural environments?
Well, as I mentioned, one way is they shouldn't I try to encourage them, don't underestimate the impact of social media and artificial intelligence. Don't underestimate that. And also to be present. You know, there's a magazine called the Stanford Social Innovation magazine, and their latest, I just received their latest magazine issue. And in there, they have a great article on that it's not about IQ, intelligence, it's about RQ, which is relationship, and how parents need to go back to connecting with their children, undivided attention, being curious about what their kids are into, and the ability to really relate and connect in a way that artificial intelligence cannot. And the article talks about how so many young people and adults are using artificial intelligence to be their friend, to be their companion because they're lonely. So lonely. If you can imagine that in the age of digital age with information flowing out of our ears, that people are still lonely. And for young people, that is happening. And so, parents, we need to be present. And I call it one of the things I encourage in my book on Parents on a Mission is what I call high touch versus high tech. We text our kids, we email our children, nothing wrong with that. But I encourage them because nothing, in my opinion, nothing can replace sitting down and handwriting out a note. I'm sure you've received that. I have myself. We can all buy a card that already says wonderful things, but there's something different about when somebody takes the time to take their pen and thoughtfully write out a personal message. And I encourage parents, if you'll do that, it doesn't have to be a birthday, doesn't have to be Christmas, it doesn't have to be anything. Just sitting down, short, doesn't have to be long, just a short note you can put in their mailbox or I'm sorry, their lunchbox. You can put it in their athletic equipment. Put it somewhere. That's what I used to do, where they'll find it. I would put it in my son's, helmet or my daughter's cheerleading stuff because I know they would find it there. And when they read those notes, it speaks volumes to them. Again, nothing wrong with text, nothing wrong with email, but I call it high touch over high tech because there's something special when you knew somebody sat down and took the time to write you a heartfelt note of love, encouragement, whatever it might be.
Oh, that's such great advice. I love that. So, to kind of dovetail with that, what are some of the biggest mistakes well-meaning parents are making today that unintentionally weaken their influence with their children?
Well, again, I think that it's kind of taking things for granted and really not giving the attention a lot to their children because when we grew up or well, I'll speak for myself. When I grew up, you know we only had three channels, and at midnight the TV went off, and the when you came home you had maybe a phone and a radio, a phone on the wall or something, and we just didn't have access to our peers like today it's 24/7 and it's global. It's not like you can put the kids to bed and they're not communicating, unless you remove the phone, and that's a whole nother discussion. But there's just so much access to so many influences. And I just think that that is something that I just think it's a mistake when parents are not realizing what is going on in that bedroom, or what is going on at school, or what is going on when they're away from home. And I think that if parents could really begin to address those things, not in a overwhelming dictatorship, take phone away. I don't mean that, but just to be aware, awake, and present. I really think that that is a big advantage and a mistake when parents take for granted the heart and mind of their children.
What are one or two practical things a parent can start this week to start turning the relationship around?
Well, I would, as I already said, if for all of you that are listening, right now, I would encourage you to take the time to sit down and write your children a note. It could be a letter. It doesn't have to be. It could be just a simple note, and just see what happens. See what happens when they find that note or that letter from you in their book or somewhere where you know they'll find it, and just see what happens. The other thing, if you're struggling in your relationship with your child, maybe there's been a break in the relationship or a strained relationship, that requires a lot of self-reflection on our part and a lot of humility and emotional intelligence or emotional maturity to initiate a conversation. Turn off the TV, put the phone down, and approach your son or daughter. Look them in the eye and say, "Hey, I don't want this to be this way. I'm sorry if I yelled at you or was impatient." And just with that humble approach, kids respond to that. And I'm speaking from experience because I've made a lot of mistakes as a parent. But one of the things I know it goes a long way is when I owned up, no excuses, admitted I was wrong, and apologized. So those are a couple of things that I suggest parents do that can really turn the relationship around.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. I think it's such great advice and it has me kind of thinking of, like blended families. I'm sure they often feel like they're set up to fail. What makes step parenting so uniquely challenging?
Oh, how much time do we have?
I wish we had more.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason I wrote my book, The Art of Step Parenting, How to Blend Families Without Tearing Them Apart, because it takes so much emotional maturity, again, to raise and love somebody else's children. That in itself is a huge challenge. My whole parenting experience from day one has been as a stepdad. So I'm speaking from experience, and in my book, I just shared, real life, navigating the ex-spouse, so the ex-in-laws, and those kinds of relationships. Sometimes they can work out, and sometimes they don't. And then we have to think about the children. A lot of times, parents don't. They're just thinking about, they're kind of warring back and forth how I can get back at him or her rather than understanding that in the middle of that is our children in step families, holidays, navigating birthdays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, graduations, weddings, being able to navigate those things. And again, what needs to be in the forefront of our mind and our heart is our kids. But a lot of times we kind of assume that they're just going to get along and it's all going to be okay. And that's not true. Playing favorites. If you are blending families and you're treating your children one way and your stepchildren the other way, those kinds of things really are very challenging. And then a couple other things that come to my mind is just making assumptions about money and discipline. Who's going to discipline the kids? And those are just real life everyday things that I learned over the years that have to be navigated, and it takes a lot of emotional maturity to do it.
So, why do you believe that strong families are one of the most important factors in building healthy communities?
Well, I think throughout history, we know that the family has always been the cornerstone of the community. And that's why I believe it's under attack today. I believe, the ideology that's being promoted in a lot of schools and universities undermines the authority and the role of parents. I know when Plato wrote the Republic, way back then, he suggested that the children needed to be raised by the state and that the role of parents was in the way of the Marxist ideology that they were promoting way back then. And I see a lot of that still happening today. Why the state wants to parent our children. And I just really think that's just backwards. I believe, Marianne, very strongly when you look at the problems in a community, and a lot of them are youth problems, youth violence, drugs, and these kinds of things. What everybody wants to know, well, what's the answer? Well, if more laws and more rules and more curfews and more prisons and more jails and more police and more parks, pools, and playgrounds was the answer, we would have solved these problems a long time ago. But we know that those things have been tried and they are not successful. In my opinion, a healthy family, a healthy, happy relationship between mom and son and daughters, dad and son and daughters, that is the solution to the social problems that we have in our country.
Well, I understand that you train community leaders to become parent and youth mentors. Why is mentorship such a crucial piece of restoring family and forming future leaders?
Yeah, one of the metaphors I like to use in that it's kind of like you when you think about Olympic athletes. These are the best athletes in the world. Why do they need a coach? If they're the best athlete, why do they need a coach? Well, because a coach is in a position to see things about yourself that maybe you don't see. And they're only pushing you so that you can achieve and perform in maximum potential. And I think the same is true about parents. I talk about being a professional parent. If you were going to hire a plumber, electrician, a doctor, a lawyer, and they're professional, you expect them to be an expert and be great at what they do. Why should our children expect anything different? But we are all human beings. We all need encouragement, and that's why I think mentoring, having somebody who can speak with authority into your life, somebody that you respect and listen to, that is the role of a mentor. Not to criticize you or put you down or shame you or blame you, but to encourage you and to speak into your life in a way that's going to take you to another level of whatever it is you're doing. In this case, we're talking about parenting. So, Parents on a Mission, that's what I do. I have a 3-day certification program and I train them in the curriculum that I wrote. And then they take that curriculum and they teach it in their communities, in jails, prisons, nonprofit organizations, school districts, and churches. And that way, I'm hoping to reach more people with these mentors. Because if you really think about it, when people think about mentors, they usually think about youth mentors. But who's mentoring parents? And they have a huge responsibility. And on top of that, a lot of parents today are very young and they could use a lot of coaching. If they're not getting it from their mom and dad, they can get it from the Parents on a Mission mentors that we are training.
What great work you're doing. My goodness. And being able to influence and help so many people. I mean, that's just so heartfelt.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We've seen a lot of transformation, and our mission statement is to turn the hearts of parents towards their children and the hearts of children towards their parents as the best method for preventing children from joining negative lifestyles. And that's what we're trying to do, and we've seen that happen.
Well, I'm sure you know I love a good story. So, can you share with us one story that you've seen that convinced you that families really can change even after years of damage?
Yeah, thank you for that. First of all, I really appreciate being on your show, Marianne. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Um, there are so many testimonies I have. I mean, geez, but the one sticks out to in my mind right now. There was a young woman who had 2 daughters, and she wrote me a letter. And in the letter, she explained that they could not be in the same room at one time. They were always arguing, always yelling at each other, throwing things at each other, and sometimes things would even get physical. And she said in her letter that had it not been for the Parents on a Mission classes, and the great thing about it, I didn't teach the classes. They were taught by people that I had trained in a different city, but she's writing to me because she knows I'm the author. So she says, Richard, if it had not been for the classes, I would have been arrested. My daughter would have probably committed suicide, and my other daughter would have been taken by Child Welfare Services. But because of the classes, I started to do the things I was learning. And one of the exercises is we encourage them to write a letter to their kids, just like I already said earlier today. She did that, went home, she gave it to them. Now, remember, this is a volatile situation. She gave them the letter. The next morning, the daughter that she felt was suicidal came into her room, laid on her bed, hugged her and said, "Mom, I love you. I'm so sorry," etc. They had a wonderful moment of reconciliation. And at the very end of the letter, she said, "Richard, you may not know it, but you saved my family."
Oh my gosh, I just love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. And so I'm sure we have many people listening right now. I've heard people reach out to me all the time that talk about just as parents how discouraged they are, or even step parents. And for those that are listening right now, what do you want them to know?
I want them to stop beating themselves up if they make mistakes. I want them to know that things can change, to not put so much pressure on yourself, and that if you're feeling overwhelmed and uh, experiencing the eye rolls and the back talk and those things, all of that can change. All of it can change. And I want them to know that. I want you to know that if you're listening to this program. I've seen it over and over and over again. But the key is it starts with us, mom and dad. It starts with us. We have to look within ourselves. That's where it starts. Parents on a Mission is about parent leadership, and leadership always starts with the leader. So be encouraged and stop criticizing yourself and giving up and thinking that you're doing everything wrong. We are living in a society under pressure like never before. The rules have changed. The goalposts have been moved. We were not taught nor prepared for dealing with children in a digital age. So we've got resources for you, but the main message is don't give up, don't quit, work on yourself. My message always is this: you can be the gardener and the rose at the same time. And what that means is we need to work on ourselves.
Mm. Oh my goodness, that's such great advice. And for people who want to go deeper, and I'm sure everyone here is listening, I go like, where do I start? How do I even start? What do you suggest?
Well, for those of you who like to read, my book is on my website, Parents on a Mission: How Parents Can Win the Competition for the Heart, Mind, and Loyalty of Your Children. You can find it there or on Amazon. My website is Richard R. Don't forget my middle initial, richardraramos.com. If you don't like to read, which not everybody does, I have an online course that is also on my website. And third, I have a podcast, the Parent Whisperer Podcast.com, or you can find it on my website, the Parent Whisperer Podcast. You can just listen to my weekly show where I talk about all these different issues. And sometimes I have guests on and interview them who have gone through the program, and they can give their story.
Oh my goodness, so many great resources. Well, Richard, I mean, you're such an inspiration. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
It's my pleasure, Marianne. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, thank you, Richard. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your books, Parents on a Mission, The Art of Stepparenting, and From the Margins to the Mainstream. All books are available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And if you don't see it on the shelves, just ask for them to order it. And make sure to visit Richard Ramos's website at richardraramos.com for more information on his work, to be part of his community, and to sign up for one of his courses. And of course, listen to his podcast, The Parent Whisperer. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.